There are big changes coming to Crossout, guys. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at some of the planned balance changes and improvements to existing mechanics. Now, firstly, they talk about tonnage recalculation mechanics. Now, they do explain it in depth in the dev blog, but I'm going to give you guys a short version. So basically what they're doing, they're splitting up the movement parts. You got low movement parts and high movement parts now. The high movement parts are your hovers, your mechanical legs, and your rotors. And your low movement parts are basically all the other movement parts like your wheels, the tank tracks, and omni wheels as well. And the reason why they're doing that is they want to prevent people from using multiple movement parts on hovers and spider builds. Because if you watch yesterday's video where I played a ML200 mechanical leg spider build, but I had an atom wheel in the front. And I said I was using the atom wheel as armor because the atom wheel has 400 durability and the shield it generates also has 400 durability. Basically giving me the durability of a freight train plow, but with a fraction of the mass. So in the future, if you're going to be using a build with mechanical legs, you'll still be able to add the movement parts categorized as low, but it will basically be in an off position. You won't get the perk from that movement part, and the tonnage will also not be applied to your creation. The only time the movement part categorized as low will be activated is when they are touching the ground. So this change is going to be very interesting. Also, while you're building, the low movement parts will be highlighted orange, and in your little stat card, you'll also see the tonnage you won't receive when those movement parts are disabled. Well, not disabled, just inactive. Because currently on all hover builds, if you try to add wheels to them, the hovers will just completely shut off. But they're also going to be removing that. Now, personally, this change won't affect me too much because usually when I'm building with mechanical legs, I just stick to one leg type and that's just roll with it. I've recently just been experimenting with the atom wheel to see if it's effective or not, but I guess be having fun with that anymore. But for those of you who do build like this, please let me know your thoughts on this change in the comment section down below because I'm curious to hear what your point of view is like. The devs are also planning to improve the anti-wedge mechanics. Now when applying additional mass from an enemy vehicle, the amount of movement parts detached from the ground is also taken into account. Now they gave an example here, but I still don't fully understand what they mean. So if anyone can decipher this, please leave it in the comment section down below. And next up, we have the balance changes. And oh boy, they have a lot of juicy changes for us this time. First off is a P1 charge generator, reducing its mass from 576 to 445 kilograms, which is a nice buff. Personally, this is my go-to generator if I just need 2 extra energy. The only downside is it's a bit big compared to the Ampere, but the Ampere just deals so much damage when it blows up. And yes, they did buff the Ampere, giving it a little bit more durability, but still, I prefer the P1 charge. But this is a good buff. Hopefully people use it more in the future. Next up, we have the Goblin and the Gremlin shotguns. They're nerfing the Goblin once again. The damage is reduced by 5% on the Goblin. The rate of fire is also reduced by 90%. And now lets 30% of the damage through instead of 40%. And for the Gremlin, damage is reduced by 10%. And now lets 30% of the damage through instead of 40%. Decent nerfs for these shotguns. We all know that these shotguns are used in a very popular build with the Hugin cabin, in clan confrontation, and against new players with, I believe, tank tracks, and either the Bastion cabin or the Hugin cabin as well. Very powerful, very annoying to deal with, but I guess it's deserved. Next up, we have the Kapkan. Vehicle capture time reduced from 7 seconds to 6 seconds. If it was me, I would only leave it for 5 seconds because I freaking hate Kapkans. I complain about them in every single match. Now, the next one is one that people really got upset about. They were nerfing the expanded ammo pack, like the epic ammo pack. Mass increased from 288 to 408 kilograms. That is a massive nerf. All of my builds with an expanded ammo pack will no longer work because they will all be super heavy now. I really hope they don't go forward with this change, but what do you guys think? Actually, you know what? I've been seeing a lot of creations with ammo packs in the front. It's usually the dog build, so I think that's why they're nerfing it. Because dog builds usually have a very low mass limit, so they think increasing the ammo pack weight will prevent them from using it in their creations. Because now I'm not 100% sure how effective those types of builds are because I've never used them. I'm assuming they just use it to ram into the enemy and it will explode in their face, or maybe they shoot it and it explodes. I'm not 100% sure, but I've seen those builds. They run 2 large ammo packs on top and sometimes 2 in the back as well. Next up, we have the Miller miniguns. The king of miniguns is finally getting dethroned. The mass is increased from 495 to 565 kilograms, which is fine. But the second nerf, that's the juicy one. added the ammunition parameter and base value is 310 points. So right now, Millers will require ammo packs, which makes sense. This is how they should have been since the very beginning, because the Reapers use ammo. They also plan to nerf the Guerrilla legs, of course. Tonnage will be reduced from 1600 to 1400 kilograms, because people have been making pretty beefy builds using the Guerrilla legs while keeping their excellent performance. And I actually don't mind this change. They're also nerfing the Blight Cabin. Perk damage bonus reduced from 40 to 35%, and the distance required to charge the perk increased from 300 to 500 meters. Massive nerf to the Blight Cabin as well. I think they're bringing all these changes in because of the higher echelons of the game and Clan Wars. I no longer do Clan Wars, but the last time I played it, the Fire Dogs were pretty annoying, and I guess this is their way of nerfing the Fire Dogs just a little bit. Guess what? They're nerfing the Astros again. The Astros is like one of those sleeper cars. From the outside, it doesn't look like it's gonna be fast, but under the hood, it has a turbocharged LS. But yeah, they're nerfing the Astros again. Reload time increased from 4 to 5 seconds, damage reduced by 10%, perk damage reduced from 60 to 50%. Honestly, the Astros is fine, but you know what makes the Astros busted? The Catalina Cabin. And I'm surprised there's no changes planned for the Catalina Cabin. Or maybe I missed it. We'll keep going. So this one is ridiculous. The GL55 impulses are getting reverted back to their old version, but with slightly better parameters. I mean, I'm no game developer or anything, but it should be obvious not to make too many changes at once to something. When they buffed the GLs, I said it was too many changes at once. It's gonna be super strong. And it was super strong. And now instead of removing 1 or 2 things, they're reducing 5 things again. And I'm not sure if the GLs are still going to be good. What's nice about the GLs right now is their projectile speed and their accuracy. If they lose that, they might become trash again. So they're reducing the projectile speed by 10%, and the effect of vehicle speed on accuracy increased by 30%, and an increased spread after the shot increased by 17%. That just sucks. That just sucks. The impulses are going to be... We'll have to see. I think they're going to be back to where they were. They're finally giving my Cerberus cabin the love it deserved, though, adding 30% more explosion resistance to the front of the cabin, and resistance to round damage also applies to the front of the cabin. Finally. The Werewolf cabin, though, is getting a very silly perk, which I do kind of like. Now, after the cabin is destroyed, a drone with a Fafnir shotgun remains for an unlimited time. I mean, that's just gonna be funny. And I can't wait to get destroyed by someone only to finish him off with my little tiny drone with a Fafnir. The Ghost Cabin is also getting a pretty nice buff. The cabin's perk now starts resetting after taking damage, not ramp damage, and not after exiting invisibility. Because before, once you got out of cloak, the perk would already drop down, which, kind of sucked. Because sometimes you get out of cloak, but you don't have the perfect shot yet, so, you basically waste the perk. Looks like some of our prayers did get answered. The Caucasus is getting a nerf. Vertical aiming angles change from plus 40 and negative 20 to plus 20 and negative 10. That's basically because of the helicopter mode. Because in the helicopter mode, the Caucasus were just way too effective. And I'm 100% down with this change. They're also nerfing the Pyre and the Hurricane missiles just because of the helicopter mode, reducing the optimal range from 300 to 200 meters, and after that the damage will decrease, which I am 100% okay with. The Tsunami Cannon is getting a small buff, reload reduced from 7 to 6 seconds. I talked about this in my last video. The Tsunami needs some love, man. All cannons need some love. The Mammoth's also getting a reload reduction from 6.6 seconds to 6 seconds, which 6 seconds for a cannon, I guess that's fine. Wonder how it's gonna be with the Hadron combo. The Athena is getting yet another nerf. The number of shells in the burst increased from 7 to 10, which means you will have a higher chance of not getting the perk. And damage and healing from each hit in the burst reduced by 30%, which is quite a lot. Now the spread increases more as the burst is fired, but it stops increasing when the weapon is rotating. I'm not 100% sure what they mean. So if you turn your weapon, you won't get any spread. I'm not sure what they mean by that. But the Athena nerf is very welcome. They're also making some changes to the Spark 3. I haven't used this one in a long time. Damage frequency reduced by 25%. Damage increases by 46%. Negative effect of the perk reduced from 7.5 to 4%. Negative effect stacks up to 15 times instead of 8 before. Interesting. Okay. We'll have to see how this one works. The Apollo generator is also getting a nice buff. Durability increased from 363 points to 427. That is a very welcome change to me. And now for the Reaper, added a perk after 7 hits on the enemy, fires an armor-piercing projectile that penetrates up to 3 structural pins without losing damage. Each miss reduces the number of accumulated hits. The mechanics of firing without overheating have been preserved. That is just great news. I love the Reaper so much, but it was just not that great. The Miller was better. But I'm so happy that they kept the perk where you could fire infinitely. That is I'm so I'm so happy. Basically, the Reaper is back to its old ways because it already had a perk like that. But now with the infinite fire, ooh, that's gonna be very juicy. Can't wait to try it out. For the Chronos cabin, charge consumption now stops and doesn't start if there's nothing to restore. Yeah, because you could basically keep it on. And if you would receive damage, it would repair the item right away. The Mutant cabin is also getting a buff because nobody uses that cabin. Now the cooldown time of the drones that had the perk active at the time of destruction is reduced by 35%. It's a welcome change. The Typhoon cannon is also getting some love. Reload reduced from 7 seconds to 6 seconds. And the negative effect of the perk is now 30% instead of 40%, and its duration is 2.5 seconds instead of 3 before, so they're nerfing the perk a little. I still think the cannons need a little bit more love. And for the RL9 Helicon, now instead of seconds of projectile flight, the meters traveled by the projectile are used to activate the perk. The change should make it easier for the perk to interact with the projectile speed upgrade as well as with the perk of the Step Spider cabin. Yeah, basically if you upgraded your Helicon for extra projectile speed, it would work against the perk of the Helicon itself, which is kind of stupid. They're also buffing the Flash one, damage frequency reduced by 25%, damage increased by 46%, and the negative effect reduced from 5 to 2.5%. And the negative effect now stacks up to 24 times instead of 12. That's a lot of stacks. And for Rippers, now the weapon does 3.5 times more damage to bumpers and passive melee weapons. Fix a bug that caused the disc to disappear when they hit the water. Now, I don't play Leviathan Clan Wars anymore, but the #1 complaint over there was the Rippers, because #1, your Leviathan would target the discs, and #2, you could instantly nugget a Leviathan if it hit a disc as well. And it doesn't look like they're planning to change any of those things, like the auto lock and on system, which is kind of unfortunate. Next up, we have optimization of bonuses for the part upgrade system. Looks like they're not calling it fusing anymore. But yeah, basically they're planning to improve all the current fusions that we have. Now, I've looked through all of these changes here and they do look good. I'm only wondering if you already have upgraded items, will we get the new and improved perks as well automatically, or do we keep our old perk? I'm assuming we'll get the new and improved perks when the change goes live, but we'll have to see. And of course, testing is only on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So probably this weekend, if you guys have any requests, I'll do some testing. But what do you guys think of these changes so far? A lot of changes. It's gonna be pretty interesting what will happen. I don't agree with some of them, but most of them seem okay. Just the ammo box and some of the other stuff is just ridiculous. But yeah, the upgrade system looks good. Gonna make upgrading your items a lot more beneficial for you. But sadly, no improvements for the helicopter modes yet. But maybe they'll announce that another time. That was it for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. Peace.